Hello. Welcome to the Heartbeat podcast. I'm excited to have you today. I have with me today Vanessa, and I'm going to let her introduce herself a little bit. I'm very excited to have you. A little bit of background. Vanessa and I both write for One Tribe magazine, and I'm sure that we'll talk about that today. We're just going to keep this super organic and super authentic and just see what happens. I feel like that's when you get the best content, is when you just sort of free flow. And we talked about that beforehand. And so that's what we're going to do. So welcome. I'm so excited to have you. So can you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and, maybe why you do what you do or what you're doing, and we'll just launch.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. Bless you. Thank you so much for having me. It's just been an absolute delight to get to know you as a result of One Tribe magazine. Who am I? I'm a very passionate young woman. Where do you start? I am a woman, I'm a mother and a wife, and I am extremely passionate about helping people, predominantly women, live very much like you, wholeheartedly. My concept is naked, because I believe we're here to teach what we need the most. And the thing I found most scariest, was to be able to show up as my true self. And it wasn't until I was 40, when I faced myself and walked away from my life to begin again, that I truly realized that my purpose was to live a wholehearted and fulfilled life, showing up as myself unapologetically. And it just so turns out that there are many people that want to know how to do that. So here I am helping others, and we're all walking home together. And I think also as well, primarily being a mother, my kids are teenagers now, it gets to the point where actually, if I don't show them how to live a fulfilled, colourful life, showing up as themselves, who else is going to? And I feel it's my responsibility to kind of show them how to do that. When you live in a world that you are faced with, I suppose, tragedy and beauty, as well as the chaos and the peace, I just want to show them how best to live a fulfilled life, and enjoying. I really believe that that's why we're here, to live. I was saying to a girlfriend earlier, we don't put fun at the top of our values. We don't time all that in. That's just something that, if we've got time for that. So I'm kind of known as Little Miss Sunshine, Tigger.
I love
people
it.
call me, and it's that doesn't come. It hasn't. I've kind of trained myself, if you like, how to be optimistic and to see the bright side on life. But exactly, it's kind of what keeps me going each day, and I just do my best to apply myself to that as best I can.
Oh, that's amazingly beautiful. That whole description of you is absolutely perfect. It fits what content you put out. It fits the energy that you bring to every conversation that you and I have had. Group conversation, one-on-one conversation, written conversation. And I appreciate those messages that you send, because your voice is like, I could listen to your voice every day, all day long. I just said to my husband yesterday, I feel like she should read children's books or just books, so people can listen to your voice, because it's amazing.
Oh, likewise. And and I think, I don't know whether it's an accent thing, being American and English, but it's I feel the same about your voice too. And it's interesting. And I don't know how you feel about your voice, but I always hated my voice growing up. It was a lot lower than my girlfriend's. And it's definitely something I've learned to embrace about myself, being a speaker and mentoring as I do. I hear my voice a lot, not just in my own head, but as I record stuff or as I have conversation. A lot of my world is based on conversation, as I know yours is. It's something that I didn't like about myself growing up. So it's definitely there's definitely something I've learned to accept about myself. Do you find the same though about your voice? Because you do a lot of speaking, don't you? And a lot of your work is conversation.
Yeah, the first time I did like a Facebook Live or a video that I put out on Facebook, I did a challenge by someone, and I put it out there and I listened to it again. I was like, oh, who is that talking? Oh my gosh, do I really sound like that? And then I listened to it again. I was like, oh, I actually, like, once you get past like, is that really what I sound like? And it's like, okay, I'm okay with that now. And now I like to hear like the tone and the intonation, and I can tell when I'm really excited, or I can tell when I'm like really. And so I really have tried to and have really embraced my voice, because listening back is sometimes always like, did I really say that? Or, oh my God, I really said that. That was good.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think your voice is friendly, and I
Mm-hmm.
think there are lots of conversations I have, or voices that I have conversations with, that they don't have that range, if you like. And I think
Mm-hmm.
this is, I don't know if you find the same in the work that you do. The conversations I have sometimes are not only their voices not light and shade, but the
Mm-hmm.
way they express themselves, there's no light and shade. And
Right.
I find that, I know this is really true for me, but very much now in the work that I do, and it's those people that come to me for the work that I do with emotions, is that
Mm-hmm.
we have a whole spectrum of feelings, everything from sort of, the fear to the love, and the good and the bad, etc., etc. But we sort of are sort of stuck in the middle of fine, good, tired, bored, okay,
Right.
happy. There's sort of like a limited vocabulary that we have, and I find that people's energy is stuck in that place, their vocabulary is stuck in that place, their voices are monotone, they don't have that kind of full spectrum, if you
Mm-hmm.
like. So I think that it does show up in our voices. I have people that say to me, you can tell when you're super excited because I can't understand a word you're saying, because I speak and I know first thing in the morning my family say to me, really, babe, or fun. No, so energetic, or I don't know. I'm enthusiastic,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought, enthusiastic for me is something, as I was growing up, and as I was told in my early teens, that enthusiastic, to be enthused, is to have the spirit within, and it
Mm-hmm.
obviously comes from a Latin derivative somewhere, but actually you feel so much better when you're enthusiastic. And if you
Mm-hmm.
can give, with speaking training and things I've had, when you can give your voice light and shade, and your life light and shade, and yourself light and shade, it just, it makes it so much more interesting. You
Right.
want.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you this question, because we've talked about this before, and you just kind of alluded to it a little bit. It's about the language that we use. And we all know, like, the language we use is could be detrimental, or it can be a very empowering place to be. And so I find it sometimes in my everyday world, I walk around and I listen to people speak, and sometimes I just want to, like, shake them, shake them
Yeah.
a little bit, like maybe even strangers. But I don't do that, because that would be good. But I hear what you're saying about, we're stuck in this place, and people use this really extreme language, like always and never, and
Mm.
those kinds of things. And do you find that in your work and as well? And when people are using those words, how do you work with them when they're kind of stuck using those words, those really extreme language words?
Well, I think language is something that I do work with, but not at the very beginning, because I think it's really important that we appreciate the language that we use, why we use it, and then actually the effect it does have on our outside world, as a result of having an effect on our insides, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's pointing out that extreme language is, I think it's contagious. I think that words like "you always do that" or "you never do that" is as a result of past experience, and it's something I didn't fully appreciate, that the danger in living in that place and using the same language that you've always used, if you like,
Mm-hmm.
means that you limit yourself. And I think a lot of it is because we don't understand the power that language has, the words have,
Mm-hmm.
um, on ourselves and our lives. But do you know what? Changing your language is it. It's a tricky thing to do, and that's why the awareness of it has to come first, and the
Mm-hmm.
understanding of the detrimental or the positive effect it can have on you and your life, before you realize that it's, important to change it. And I think because we use habitual language, and because we have patterns in our language, we just keep rolling out the same sentences, the same phraseology, the same, we express ourselves in the same way because we don't understand the importance of that it does have on our bodies. So yeah, how do I tackle that? First of all, it's actually one of the things I love to do when I work with people is I love having a big pad in front of me with coloured pencils, and when they say things that I feel that they're repeating, I just write it all down. Or if they say things like, to be honest with you, or I never, with the language that they use in a conversation, I just write it down, and then I just show them and repeat it back to them. And be like, oh my gosh, wow, I never realized that actually. I find myself saying things like, does that make sense? And it's, and we get caught in that patterning, don't we, or what we do say, that it's very important to have somebody reflect it back to you.
Yep, absolutely. And one of the things that I learned about language and the way we talk to ourselves in particular is and this is just the example that's coming to mind right now, is when I was getting a tattoo and I knew that it was going to not feel awesome, right? And I was like, she was tattooing and I was like, that's not so bad. That's not so bad. I kept telling myself, oh, it's not bad. It's not bad. And I was like, this isn't working. Like this isn't bad, isn't working. So I changed my repeating myself mantra to, this feels good. This feels good. This feels good. And it actually worked. It actually tells your brain a different message than using that negative language.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is understanding that there is like you say, changing, you're sending your brain a different message. And I think it's really hard. I know I found it hard in the beginning. I find it when I have conversations with people, they find it hard to understand how the words that you say actually affect your brain, which then affects your body. So it just became something that when you understand how the brain works and the chemical response that, with the neuroscience, if you like, and how then it affects your body, you can then fully appreciate once you experience it for yourself. Because it's one thing knowing that maybe, negative language has a negative impact. Right. We hear this stuff over and over again, but until you've experienced it yourself, you don't really know. Because a lot of people say, how can just the words I say or the thoughts I have actually change my outside world?
Yep. And they do. It's absolutely science, like you said. Yeah. So I want to talk about your thought about naked, because I love that so much. Yeah. And then I think we've talked a few times about, and I think we come from the same place of, we teach what we need the most. And I would love for you to sort of talk about that and explain to the listeners what that means, and how you decided that's sort of one of your big callings or missions.
I think only from experience and understanding that what I have lived through, like everybody, just my life, is actually organic, how I organically got to what I'm doing in the world right now. Because I just remember being about 13, 14 years of age, and all I wanted to do is help people feel better about themselves. I was useless at school, and I thought to myself, why do I want to help people feel better? How can you study what the languages, the subjects I was learning at school? How is that going to help people feel better? Right. I just didn't like myself very much at all. I struggled with myself growing up for all sorts of reasons. We all have the same sort of things that happen to us, that it just plays out slightly differently. And so I just wanted to help people feel better about themselves. And I think the two subjects that I was good at were maths and science. So that led me to do beauty therapy at college. It was my mum's idea. She said, you have a natural flair for that kind of thing, so why don't you get into that? And I did, and I loved it. So I was helping people feel better by helping them look after the outside of their bodies. And I then went and worked on the cruise liners as a facial therapist. I came back from there and I thought to myself, I don't really want to be working in a room with twinkly music. I wanted to have more conversation. So when I then started training at the BBC to be a TV and film makeup artist, and I worked in TV and film for a couple of years, and that's when I realized then that actually I wanted to be a mum one day. So how can I, have a business while being a mum? So that's when I then set up my own business with Mary Kay Cosmetics, actually, which you probably are with, it's American based. So I was teaching women skincare. And actually, it was as a result of my own adversity that I then switched from helping people feel better on the outside to actually working on the inside. And it was a profound moment. I was working with a customer, a client in 2010, and my girlfriend had rung me up and said, "Can you take your bag of tricks around to see my friend? She's having a really rough time. She's got 3 kids under 5. Her husband's mucking about and her health is deteriorating." So I said, "Yeah, just classic for me. I would love to go and help her." And she was so excited about the work that we did. And she bought a couple of things and she just said, "I love my new look." And I said to her, "I'm going to give you a call tomorrow morning just to check that everything that you're familiar with and you're happy to use." Called her the next day and she didn't sound quite so happy. And I said, "Oh, what?" And she said, "I washed it off." And in that moment, I realized that, well, confirmed for me, I'd realized before working with people in TV and film, that it doesn't matter what you look like on the outside, it's actually how you feel on the inside. And she confirmed that for me. So I started to make that transition, and I was going through my own adversity at the time. My life had been turned upside down. And as a result of getting myself back on track, I had colleagues that were saying to me, "How did you do that? Could you teach me?" And customers that were finding out about how I'd, transformed myself and my life, if you like, that I was really busy with appointments, but they weren't necessarily wanting me for the product. They were wanting me to, come and help them. So it was a colleague of mine that asked me to make the transition and said, "I really believe that you need to focus forward on helping people by mentoring them and sharing your journey and how you did it and the tools that you use." And then as a result of doing that, my life started to really change. And in 2014, I woke up one morning and the kids and I left our life and we never went back. And in the next year or so, I remember feeling a lot better about myself with the work that I had done. And for as long as I could remember, I kept having this, what I call the naked dream. And I don't know if you've ever had it, where I would wake up and I'd be in my dreams and I would find myself in our local high street with no clothes on. And this is where I wish I was a guy, because I could just have one place to cover up. And I felt humiliated and ashamed because I didn't have enough hands to cover myself up. All the years that I was having that dream, I thought it was about body confidence, because I'd struggled with my weight and I'd had to lose about 6 stone after having my son, etc., etc. And once I'd started to feel really good about myself and my body had transformed and I was feeling well at rebuilding my life, I was still having the dream. And I thought, "Oh, hold on a minute, it can't be about body confidence then. Why am I still having this dream?" And you know what it's like when you ask questions and you get the answer. And I was like, "Oh my, naked is actually about showing up as my true self." And that's when I started to really explore what naked meant for me. And it's about stripping back the stories that you believe to be true about yourself so you can connect and reveal your essential self. And since 2015, that's all my time has been about. And in the last 18 months, as I've been launching Naked, it's been quite a brave thing to do, because when you talk as a woman, when you talk about naked or the concept of naked, people automatically think nude and nudity, especially I think you just naturally go there. But for me, it's actually showing up unapologetically in all your glory as a result of accepting the light and the dark, within you. So really, I help people embrace their shadow, accept themselves, especially the parts that we would rather not admit. You know, we kind of the person that we'd rather not be. And you can make friends with her or him. Then that for me is showing up wholeheartedly and colourfully and authentically. And
Wow.
I recognised that that's actually what I needed the most. So therefore, I now just teach from experience, and I share from experience. And I fall to the wayside. You know, I allow my ego to still get in the way. But I feel that the more I work with it, and the more I want to be the example of my work. As you know, you can't lead where you have not been. And it's, I think, only when you are authentic and live with integrity, that for me, when you shift your energy, I think it's undeniable. And I think that that's what people relate to. I think that's what people connect to. And I think one of the main comments I get a lot is, I feel safe talking to you. I feel that I can actually tell you anything and I don't feel judged. And I just feel that it's totally okay. And when I hear those words, I think to myself, that's all I ever wanted. When I was really struggling with myself, it was that fear of actually really speaking up with courage and integrity about what I was most fearful about, was just the part of me I was denying. I didn't want to admit that actually Little Miss Sunshine was a miserable bitch, you know. It was very much the, you know, she was the facade that covered up the fact that I was miserable. And I was crying myself to sleep at night, and I felt my life was out of control. And as a result of all of that, I now work primarily with people that struggle with ill health, violence, or anger and addiction. And all of us have experienced that on some level. And I think that's why we do the work that we do, because we see people stuck in their pain and their stories, and it doesn't have to be that way. It just, but people don't have the tools. You probably find this. They know they're in pain and they know they're struggling, and they know that they either have a vision, a dream, or a desire, or something that they go, why do I see these people with living the life that I want, and why can't I seem to get there? Because they're just, the tools for them are not as available. And I think that once they are, then it's actually having the courage to be able to say, I'm willing to do the work. And that's the bit where people need their hand and their heart held.
Yep, absolutely. I find that quite a lot, because you do have those people, I want your help. I want to not feel stuck. I want to not suffer anymore. That's my, my big thing is to ease suffering for people, any kind of suffering. And when I see that, I'm drawn to talk to people about that. And people want my help, and they know that they want it. And then we sit down and we come out with a plan, and then they have the tools, and then we twist it because it doesn't feel right. And then there's like this place where they're like, I don't know why I can't do this. And it's like, well, we have to keep going. It doesn't happen in 20 minutes. It doesn't happen in maybe 2 months. It takes some work, and it takes some, like you said, bravery and courage to be okay with the shadows, as you put them, or I call it my protector. And it's okay to honor that person and love that person and tell them to, frankly, shut the fuck up. Stop running my, like, I've got it. Like, I honor you. I love you. I wouldn't be who I am today. Today, I need you to just stop and just let me run my world. So I absolutely see that.
That's really profound, though, what you just said, Christine, about, just shut up, because I'm in control now. Did you teach yourself that? Was that something you worked out for yourself? Because it's the body that is so programmed that our ego mind, if you like, orchestrates life and controls us. But that in return has conditioned the body. So we have this patterning that plays out. So did you work that out for yourself? Or
I did. I probably had a couple of, suggestions from people in my life that, like, so what I was finding in my life was, like, anytime I was feeling like I wasn't heard, or I wasn't feeling included, or I wasn't feeling whatever those needs are that wasn't being met, I would go to this place of, well, I'm not good enough. Of course they don't like you, or of course they don't want your opinion, or of course they're not going to invite you because whatever.
Yeah.
It's really just that person that protected me for 25 years of before I decided to, be naked and to, show up authentically.
Yeah.
And I held on to sexual assault trauma. I held on to that for so long. And that person was my protector for so
Yeah.
long. And finally I was like, I have to figure out, like, I love her because she's done that for me and she still does that for me when I need her. But sometimes she takes over. And that's when
Yeah.
I have to have a little conversation with her.
Mm.
And it used to take me a long time to be like, what? And I even named her. She has a name.
Oh,
Because
really? I've
she's
got one. I've got a name too. That's interesting. Yeah.
and so it's just like sometimes I just have to have a conversation with her, like, I love you and I don't want you to leave me. And I just need you to trust that I can take care of this. The me today can
Yeah.
take care of this, because
Yeah.
the me 25 years ago, which is you, is very different. And you need to catch up. Catch up. Let's
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
funny. It's funny you should say that, because I had this very similar conversation with mine, and it's Ellie, the ego. And I say to her, Ellie, I totally understand why you are here, but if you wouldn't mind, just go and wait in the green room. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
this is the stage I'm going to be on for the minute. I'm in charge, and I'm when when I'm ready for you, absolutely. And
Mm-hmm.
my kids used to think I was mad, because they used to say, you're talking to yourself again, mum. And their friends, when they used to come around for tea, saying, your mum talking to herself in the kitchen. And they say, yeah, she does that, she's fine, honestly. Because it was very much, I felt that I had to become my own friend, if you like. I had to, having that conversation out loud with myself, if you like, which was her,
Mm-hmm.
giving it a voice. I could hear myself back, because like many of us, and I'm sure you get what I'm saying, that horrible inner critic, that crazy, that just that whirlwind going round in your head, once you can actually say it out loud, whether you journal it or whether you speak it, makes so much more sense to me when I
Mm-hmm.
actually give it a voice. And yeah, so I talk to her the whole time now.
Yeah.
And actually in my workshops I actually have a blow up doll, right? And the ironic thing is obviously that she's naked, and but she is a blow up doll that I carry around uh, to demonstrate and to share how crazy we are if we carry this voice around. Because if I call it, this is Ellie the ego, and if I was to walk around, in this workshop or down the road, and I went to the butchers or the shops or whatever, carrying this thing, and I was talking to her, you'd all think I was mad. The problem
Mm-hmm.
is that she is here, but she's invisible here.
Yeah.
So if you keep listening to her or him, Eddie, whichever, whether you're male or female, you're mad. This is why they call you crazies. It's the insanity. And it was a quote from A Course in Miracles that really helped me understand that better. And it was, you believe the insanity because you've created it, but you do not believe in love because you did not.
Mm.
That really resonated with me. And if I change a couple of the words, it really helped me understand it more, which was, you believe the story you've made up about yourself because you created it, but you do not believe in who you truly are because you did not. And
Right.
that
Wow.
is what I think that we, with the work that we do, what we are trying to share and teach the world is that the very essence of who you are is perfect, whole, and complete. It's love.
Mm-hmm.
It's the energy that turns the world, grows the grass, and beats our hearts, right? And it
Yeah.
flows through you. The part, the insanity and the part that you believe about yourself that you've made up is just, it's utter rubbish. But because that's born from in the conscious mind, from the shadow, if you like, to hide, the real essence of who you truly are,
Mm-hmm.
then it just is crazy that we believe this stuff. And it's, however, it defines who we are, and actually we don't know who we are without it. And that's why
Absolutely.
I believe it's really difficult for people to get the concept, but also even when they get it, they go, yeah, okay, I get that, but I still can't let go of her because I don't, who am I without that person? And that's where the vulnerability comes.
Yep.
Being naked, if you like, stripping back that story, that the insanity of all of that, and here I am in all my glory. Because when we've showed up like that before, I don't know about you, but mine, I've been laughed at, I've been bullied, I've been abused, I've been humiliated and shamed and all of that, and none of that feels nice. It feels other than lovely. And when we don't feel good, we go, I don't want to feel like this because I'm here to laugh and to be in joy. So therefore, I'm just going to suppress that. Hence why it becomes a shadow. It's not bad. It just makes us feel bad. And that, then we make up these stories about ourselves, which is Ellie the ego. And that's the bit, we think is protecting us, but it's actually not.
Right. Yep, I agree. And then we also make up stories about other stuff too, like not even just about ourselves, like situations and interactions that we have. And like you and I might have a conversation at the supermarket or something, and we're friends, and then you say something because you're having a conversation with maybe your ego, and I would be like, well, what was that interaction all about? She was really kind of mean. I don't know what did I do? Oh, and then you just sort of make up that shitty first draft of your story, and most people wouldn't come back and say, hey, Vanessa, are you okay? They would just think it's all on them and just really sort of take that and just make up a story that has zero truth to it.
Yeah. Well, if it hurts in some way, again, like you say, when it hurts, we go back to that story because it will cover up what we don't want to, a place where we just don't want to go to. Yeah. And also as well, I think the other thing that I recognized was how we actually also project our stuff onto other people, especially when we're triggered. And that for me was massive learning. It took me ages to get that. What I don't like in you is a part of me that I'm not willing to look at, or that needs to be healed. Or now that just didn't make sense in the beginning. It just didn't make sense. Whereas in actual fact, when somebody said to me, flip it, look at the people you admire, look at the people that you aspire to be like, or that you go, oh, I really love that about that person. And actually what I was noticing that I liked in other people, whether it was friends or celebrities, or one of my favorite people in the world was Princess Diana. And when I looked at the things I liked in other people, actually that was actually the part of myself that I did like. Then I thought, well, if I admire these people and I like those qualities within them, can I be really honest with myself and think that what I don't like in others is actually the part of me that I just really don't want to admit? Like, Bertie bitch and angry Annie and stuff like that. And actually that's when my healing really began, in the end of 2016.
When you can recognize that and have awareness about it, and then do the work around it.
Doing the work. That's a bit of a struggle, isn't it?
Sometimes.
So just on that doing the work thing, because I'm always really fascinated, what point in your life did you get to where you went, was there like an emotional impact, or was there a point in your life where you just went, the line in the sand is now? And what was that point? Not necessarily that the story, but what changed, and how did you change that?
I was not feeling like I was having the best impact on my world around me. Like I knew I wanted to do something more. I knew I wanted to do, like I was an addictions therapist for so long, and I had gotten out of that. And then I felt like I needed to do something different, something more. I was just doing sort of office work, and I knew I went to a Tony Robbins event, and your screen is frozen. Are you still with me?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm still here.
Okay. Sorry. Your screen is frozen and you have a beautiful look on your face, but hopefully the video will keep rolling. If not, we can just do audio. But anyway, so I went to this Tony Robbins event, and like you get to like really sort of dive deep into the needs that you're meeting in really healthy and unhealthy ways, and how you wanted to, what is your goal? What do you want to do? And I've always wanted to be a coach, and I wanted to help people same as you, since I was a young person. And I just didn't know how to do that. And then in that moment, I realized there was some really, really heavy shit that I needed to like pretty much put down, let go of, in order for me to keep moving towards doing something. Like I in that moment, I was like, I can't ease people's suffering if I can't even ease my own.
Yeah.
So during I went back to school to get a coaching certificate, and all the things that they were teaching me, I sort of was doing for myself in the process. And so they would teach a strategy, and then I would, do it with myself as if I were a client. And it was like, oh, like so many things made so much sense. It was so simple what they were teaching. And I was like, well, if I can teach others to do that, I can certainly, teach myself. And so the biggest pivotal moment was, I need to share my story about this trauma that I had held on to for 25 years. So I did that. And, I shared that with my husband and a couple of friends. And then my husband's like, you should share your story, because I think this could help you, further your, this could be a way to sort of show people that with hard work and with, commitment and vulnerability and bravery and courage and all those things, you can figure out why you are doing what you're doing, and figure out where you want to go and actually get there. So I think it was a moment there, actually at the Tony Robbins, like, I gotta figure this out.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And it's one thing having a realization of that, then it's another thing, so becoming aware of it, then it's another thing to actually begin doing it. And then I find the trickiest thing is to keep going with it.
Yeah.
To make it a lifestyle thing, because otherwise, if it's the habits and patterns and the time and energy that it's created to get where we are now, surely it's to reverse it. It's still got to be a consistent, persevering, determined journey to unravel the layers. If we've spent all these years building these layers, you can't just slice it open and it just, it would upset the content of if you were to slice the onion in half and expose yourself, wham bam, I mean, that would just be like, I don't know anybody who's really done that. But, but equally, if you've spent all these years learning what you've learned to get to this point, and you've created this persona, if you like, surely you need to learn each layer as you unlearn to relearn, if that makes sense. So I do find the consistency in the journey is massive, because I found I think my pivotal point was 2008, where I was contemplating doing the unforgivable, and it was 3:00 in the morning, and I remember lying in bed thinking, okay, so if I kill him, then we will be free of all this stuff, right? And it's funny, your response, because every time I share that, and I've shared it in women's networking groups and business development trainings and stuff, I get a real mix. I get giggles, I get a gasp, I get, oh God, as if, nobody's ever realized, admitted that they want to get rid of somebody. Yeah. But it was, if I do away with him, then surely this pain will stop. It's got to be that simple. And I'm lying awake after, gosh, probably about 12 or so years of just, it can't go on like this. And then I was awake, but I woke up to myself and thought, you can't do that. What are you doing? You can't do that. I mean, my kids were, I think, 5 and 7. And it was in that moment where I was just like, I need a miracle. I just need a miracle. And I didn't really know what my belief system was then, but I had to believe that there was something greater than myself. And I just need a miracle. And the two words that came back were love and gratitude. And I remember lying in bed going, really? How's that going to help? It was just like, when you're desperate, you'll do anything. But I actually questioned it, and I go, hold on a minute, I'm contemplating killing somebody, and my miracle is love and gratitude. 2 or 3 times I think I questioned it, and then it just was so persistent that I just went, oh, for God's sake. And I literally got up out of bed. I was like, okay, because it was almost like that even though it wasn't a loud voice, it was a heavy, weighty, just persistent. You know what comes to mind is in Ghost when Patrick Swayze is singing to Whoopi Goldberg. I'm
Mm-hmm.
every day. It was that really annoying. I'm
Yep.
just not going to go away until you do something. So, okay. So I get up 3 o'clock in the morning and I just walk down the landing into my kids' bedrooms and I do the whole love and gratitude thing. And instantly, a couple of seconds later, I'm into the next bedroom and I think I slept the best night's sleep, or those next few hours I had in years and years and years. And then to keep going was the tricky part. The
Right.
next day, realization that actually I could see tops of trees rather than the roots of trees. You know,
Yeah.
I'd been head down for such a long time, and I kept doing it and I kept doing it, and I just, because I promised myself that just this was the only way it was going to change.
Mm-hmm.
And because I started to feel different immediately. Did I see
Mm-hmm.
it in my outside world immediately? No, but I did at least feel different. And then I just kept going and I just kept going and I kept
Yeah.
going. And then, you know, it works and you get complacent and then you go, oh, okay, I've got this. And then, of course, you take your foot off the gas and it all falls apart again. So you need to get, so that's how I've learned that it does need to be a consistent, persistent
Mm-hmm.
journey. Doing the
Yes.
work is a daily thing. It is a
Yeah.
daily thing. And when I don't do it
Absolutely.
because I am human and I fall off the track a little bit, that's okay, because, you know, I can just get back on again.
Right. Right. I think people always have this picture, like you said, Little Miss Sunshine, that you're always Little Miss Sunshine, and they see me as this empowerment, always happy person, and
Yeah.
that's sometimes just not the case. And I recently thought I don't show that side of me like very often, and I thought maybe I should show people that it's okay to be in this space, and here's how you work through that to get back to your consistency in your work, because I think that's really important for people to understand that I'm not top of my game every day, like not even remotely close to top of my game.
Yeah.
I that's where I'm at these last few weeks, and so I love that about that. So I have a quick question. And I can't believe we've already chatted for like almost 43 minutes, which is amazing. Um, so I would love, you talked about bravery and you talked about courage in some of your content today. And I would love to know if you think there's a difference between bravery and courage, and if you do, what would that be?
Instinctively, for me, bravery is an outside thing and courage is an inside thing. When
Mm-hmm.
I when I think about bravery, it's for me, bravery is the act of being courageous, and that's what I mean about the outside thing. Anytime I think of courage, I think of the lion in the Wizard of Oz, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then if you go to the Latin of courage, core is heart. And when you think about the core of who you are, that for me is the heart. That's where the power is. That's where our essence resides. And for me, to have the courage to accept my essential self, be in alignment with my essential self, with the energy of who I am, i.e., emotion, energy, emotion. When I can accept myself, then bravery is for me courageous behavior.
Mm-hmm.
So when I am not feeling particularly courageous, or when I was not feeling particularly courageous, bravery for me can be something like, I call it like gritting my teeth and pushing through.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hard work when you rely on your physical brute force, when you rely on your physical strength, when you have to put effort into something, then that for me is bravery, and that's hard work. However, what I've understood how courage works is that when you can when you are courageous, when you are tapped into that core essence of who you are, it's almost like the stuff that you had to push through before
Yep.
kind of is paper thin now, because it's never not going to be there, but it's kind of paper thin. It kind of melts away. Courage is vulnerability. Courage is an inner strength. It's a self-empowerment. It's a courage is not effort. Courage is effortless. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I think I've got a bungee jump in my mind at the minute, because I could be brave and I could hold on and I could jump, but I think courage for me is what we do. Courage is showing up. Courage is, and I love Brené Brown's work on courage.
Yeah.
Oh my, that's powerful. But so yeah, ultimately the difference between bravery and courage is inside and outside.
Yeah, that makes a complete sense. I love asking that question because I get a lot of different answers and a lot of perspective, and I absolutely love to hear how people view the difference, if there is any. Some people don't have a view of a difference, and I think that's equally interesting. So my one last formal question, because I just had those three, is what do you fear the most, Miss Vanessa, and why?
Oh, do you know what? You could easily say losing my children, the death of people you love. But I come to terms more and more with that the more I work with people and the more I see people be utterly brilliant around death and grief. But actually, my greatest fear is getting to the end of my life and looking back and going, I didn't show up. I didn't allow myself to have a positive impact in or on this world by being authentically myself. And I've said for a very long time, any success I have, any recommendations I get, any book, anything I do, I truly believe people will choose me because of who I am, not what I do. They will choose me for who I am, not what I say, whether that is a romantic partner, whether that's professionally, whether that is friendships. I want people to choose me because they see me and they connect with me, not because I might market myself brilliantly or because the way I present myself fits that. I want people to choose me.
Yes.
And then ultimately there's connection. If that for me is ultimate connection. So I think getting to the end of my life and looking back, and it's not even really about regret. My greatest fear would be, I just didn't play all out. And there are days where I don't, absolutely, but on the whole, I'd love to think that the Vanessa shaped hole I would leave in this world,
right,
the kind of the legacy, if you like, I would like people to say she made a difference because of who she was.
Yes.
And
That's
kind
beautiful.
How about you? What's your greatest fear then?
Oh, wow. Nobody has ever turned the tables on me like
Oh,
that.
really? Oh.
I love it. I think I'm kind of with you on the, losing someone close to me, like fear. I used to fear that quite a bit, losing parents, losing siblings, losing, friends. And it's kind of been predominant in the last couple of weeks because my mother's been pretty ill. But what's really interesting about that, when you say that, it was so relevant for me in this moment because I just sort of have been having this conversation with a few people, and it's like, those things are going to happen in your life. You're going to lose things. You're going to lose people. And just like you, I've watched, my husband and some really close friends go through that loss and come out brilliant on the other side and be better people because of something tragic. And so that doesn't scare me as much as it used to. It used to be my biggest fear. I think for me, the connection piece, I am driven by love and connection. So if I couldn't have love and connection in my life, that is one of my biggest fears, is to be alone and to be where I can't have those connections, where I can't share my knowledge and make an impact and help others. That's kind of saying like showing up, but for me, it's really that connection and love piece. And being alone it scares the shit out of me.
And I get it, absolutely. I do. And I think we have to make it okay to admit that one of our primal needs as human beings is, I want that connection. I
Yep.
want to feel that with you. And I'm okay saying that.
Yes.
Whether that's a hug or a handhold or an acknowledgement or eye contact or
Mm-hmm.
that sort of, I say, physical connection with another.
Yep.
Conversation, openness, open, honest communication
Yep.
really turns me on and floats my boat. And
Mm-hmm.
I found, and I wonder if you found the same, is that the more work we do in the world like we're doing, and the more we become open and okay with ourselves, and accept that part of us that really, if we didn't have to show anyone, we wouldn't. If
Mm-hmm.
once we're okay with that, the connection with others becomes so much more beautiful that actual fact you stop beating around the bush and you cut to the
Yep.
chase and you just have conversations that get straight to the heartbeat, excuse the pun,
Mm-hmm.
of what it is that you really want to get to. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what I think that in the world that we live in and our communities we are connected with, and One Tribe being one of them, we're
Mm-hmm.
all on the same page. You can cut to the chase. Let's just tell you, I'm going to just share it as it is. You feel safe enough just to express what's there for you in that moment.
Yep.
That's a beautiful connection to have. And I think we've got to make it okay that
Yes.
we want to belong. And
Mm-hmm.
we all, conformity kills, right? But
Right.
and it just kills the human spirit, and we all just become a bit blah and a bit
Yeah.
grey. What's
Yep.
wrong with just, we've got to illuminate the way for everybody else, Christine, haven't
Mm-hmm.
we? But
We
those of us
do.
that are courageous enough to just sort of say, these are my needs and these are my wants, and to actually be okay with serving yourself first. I
Right.
call it sensibly selfish, but yeah, being
Yeah.
okay with serving yourself first.
Yes,
But
absolutely.
yeah, that
Yeah.
connection is.
Yeah. So before I forget, if you would share with the listeners how they can get a hold of you, work with you, connect with you, that would be amazing.
Well, at the moment, social media is Vanessa Louise Birt on Facebook, and I've also got my Naked Tribe, Naked Facebook group, which is Strip Back the Story of You.
Mm.
And then my website will be launched very soon, which is trustvanessa.com.
Oh, nice.
Trust being the one thing I needed and wanted in my life when I left, and I didn't
Mm-hmm.
have. That's where the name was born. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
trustvanessa.com. You'll be able to connect with me there.
Oh,
But yeah,
awesome.
I'm wanting any conversations that people want to have about how to be naked. I would really appreciate it.
I
Yeah,
love that. I absolutely
brilliant.
love that because it's catchy and it's meaningful and it's beautiful. It really it encompasses everything. So I think that
Kind of
is
got its own
amazing.
story, isn't it, behind it?
Yes, it's
A bit
amazing.
like
And
Heartbeat and Whole Heart. It just says what it is on the tin, doesn't it?
right, it does. And I'm gonna definitely for some reason I thought that I had already joined your Facebook group, but I don't think I have. So I'm going to do that today as soon as we get done. I think that would be amazing. Any last words before we wrap up today's podcast?
You know what? My words to you are thank you and I love you.
Mm,
And I just think they are two sets of words that we just don't say often enough.
I agree.
You are a really beautiful person inside and out. You are a joy. I love seeing what you put out there in the world. Thank you for this space. Any time to have an open, honest, naked conversation swells my heart, turns me on, and this is what now nearly 6 o'clock for me on a Friday night. So my weekend is woohoo! Here I go. You know when you just
Nice.
in that elevated place. So yeah, just thank you and I love you. I think you're great. Really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
I thank you as well, and I love you just equally as well. And this podcast has been just what I needed this week. So I appreciate it more than you will probably ever know. So thank you.